I'm glad you girls could come today because I wanted you to meet someone very special. This is Virginia Scott. Now, Virginia has been involved with children in one way or another for 18 years, especially early childhood education. Virginia, you might say, is kind of an advocate of children and families. And that's her career commitment, but she also has a personal commitment. Virginia, tell us a little bit how you got very involved in learning about the history of black communities in Pinellas County.
Like you, as young ladies, I was very curious about the people, the places, and the landmarks in my community. And I always kept those places in my mind. I thought about what I wanted to be by some of the things that I saw that had certain kind of needs. I thought about the people and what I wanted to give back to the community that I knew best, the community where I was raised. Some of those people that I once knew or knew that were a part of my community were people like the Gray Ladies. The Gray Ladies were a group of women who were formed by the American Red Cross, but they worked at the first hospital, Mercy Hospital, which at one time was only a little house with a very few number of beds, and served only about 10 people, I imagine, before moving to 22nd Street and about 12th Avenue South in St. Pete to a larger place. J.P. Moses Sr. was the first black Bells bondsman in St. Petersburg. He was also a civil rights person. He was a fighter for equal rights for everyone. And he was a forerunner in having St. Petersburg Spa Beach open to blacks. This lady's face looks like it has a lot of character, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. She was one of the oldest citizens in St. Petersburg. She was known as Granny Reynolds. Granny Reynolds started one of the first nursing homes for people who were ill, didn't have any place to stay, and she helped a lot of children. She didn't have very many children of her own, or didn't have any children, but she raised other people's children. She lived to be over 100 years old. Her name is Granny Reynolds. The lady in the middle is Louise Yopp. That name is kind of funny, Y-O-P-P, but that's her name. She was one of the nurses in the community. And these two ladies were the first midwives. Now, they're so old that I don't even remember their names, but I believe one of them's name is Gibbons. Her last name is Gibbons, and her family still lives in St. Pete. But they were midwives. They helped to deliver babies. Okay. We always think about entertainment. Reynold Davis was one of the first, not one of the first teachers, but he taught music to a lot of students who at one time in their life became famous after moving away from our community. Reynold Davis is now deceased, but he contributed by teaching students music at Gibbs High School, which was one of the oldest high schools. Okay. This man's face also has character, right?
Very distinguished.
Okay. Well, he is distinguished because he was proclaimed to be the mayor of Jamestown, which was once a Methodist town, but they renamed it to Jamestown after him. His name was Mr. James, Chester James. He registered over 1,000 people to vote at one time. His family still lives in St. Pete, even though he's deceased. Now, this lady is just a common, everyday person, and she impressed me because she did something to help working mothers out. She and her sister, Fannie Tiff Ford, her name is Flossie Cooper, helped transport children from daycare centers, from schools, to their homes and back for only a small amount of money for those mothers that work. She impressed me because everyone called her Aunt Flossie and called her sister Aunt Fannie. They were aunts to many, many children. Okay. Dr. James Maxey Ponder and his wife, Mrs. Fannie Eyre Ponder, were very well known in the community. In fact, Dr. Ponder delivered me as a baby. His wife was a socialite. She entertained people such as Eleanor Roosevelt in her home. She was very well known. These people were a part of my community. It makes me feel good to talk about them. This lady is still living. Her name is Mary Murph, and she's just as pretty as she is there. Her children had sickle cell anemia. She was one of the first people very much interested in having Sickle Cell Anemia Foundation located within this area of Pinellas County. Now I thought that this person's face had a lot of character. This person has been a teacher, a dance promoter, a businessman, and a manager of Jordan Park Housing Project. His intentions were very good because he knew that at one time St. Petersburg didn't have a place of recreation for young people. So he opened up a skating rink so that girls and boys could go in and have a fun. Good, healthy, clean fun.
Chaperoned fun.
That's right. Okay, his name is George Grogan. He is deceased, but at one time he was a support for the community of St. Petersburg. There are many other people like these people. People in Clearwater, people that you've known, such as the man who named Curtis Elementary, such as the people like Dorothy Thompson, and many other famous people who have contributed a whole lot to the children, the youth within the community. Dorothy Thompson owns her own museum, and she's right in the heart of the Clearwater community. She's a person you should know. All these people mean a lot to communities.
Now, one of the things I found, Virginia, as you've been talking about the significance of the black community, is that you've always been a strong advocate of self-esteem. You've always talked about the importance of young people knowing where they came from so that they have a good sense of their own identity. Can you tell us a little more about your philosophy on self-esteem?
I believe that in order for anybody, any child to know about self, any child to know about your direction in life, you'd have to learn about your past. You have to appreciate your past in order to accept what may happen to you in the future. Because of that, it will enrich you to know more about you and appreciate you as an individual. You have a lot as a person to be proud of. We all do as people.